Commission's Racism Conference taking place here in Midrand. We're joined in studio by our political reporter, Mr. Tumaole Mohlaoli. Tumaole, always good to have you with us.
Always a pleasure to be here, Alicia.
All right, let's get straight to it. The South African Human Rights Commission's Racism Conference is taking place now over the next 2 days. Tell us more about the conference. What can we expect from it?
Well, the conference is just basically looking and taking stock of the work that the South African Human Rights Commission has done in terms of its mandate to try and basically build and play a part for human rights and fostering human rights and the protection of human rights. So you had delegates coming in and sharing their experiences and basically looking analytically at where the country has come in the last 20 plus years of democratic dispensation. And I think that the conference over the last 2 days has seen some very frank exchanges, some very frank discussions as well as presentations from delegates. And the overwhelming sentiment as expressed by former President Thabo Mbeki is the fact that South Africa has moved along, but transformation is still lagging very, very far behind. South Africa remains one of the most unequal societies in the world, where you have a majority that is literally languishing in poverty, and you still have the economic constructs of the apartheid regime still playing out today, despite 21 years of political freedom.
Look, Tumaole, you speaking of delegates, we see that the former president was one of the speakers. Give us some of today's highlights and also tell us who are the main speakers.
Well, today it was all about President Thabo Mbeki as the keynote speaker. Of course, you had other speakers there as well. We know that Advocate Pansy Tlakula was there as well. She was one of the founding members of the South African Human Rights Commission. And I engaged with her briefly on the outskirts of the conference, and she just reminisced about the hope and some of the aims and the visions that were espoused at the formation of the South African Human Rights Commission and the work that it would do. But sadly, you know, one of the issues that has come out on the side is the fact that the South African Human Rights Commission, despite the massive work that needs to be done, as you can see, because of the state of South African race relations, for an example, still is undercapacitated and needs more capacity. This was one of the challenges that delegates have been complaining about. But back to former President Thabo Mbeki's speech. I mean, he really went for the jugular in terms of trying to address in a very academic manner, you know, in true Thabo Mbeki fashion,
Yes.
what the issues are when it comes to the state of South Africa in terms of race relations. Race relations are just one of the themes that underpin the divisions in society.
Did they say anything about economic transformation there?
Yes, definitely. He was saying the economic transformation has not happened fast enough. And he was basically saying that everything that you see in terms of some of the challenges in the country arises from the economic disparities between the haves and the have-nots, where the minority, to a large extent, which of course still enjoy much of the economic wealth and economic benefits, we're not seeing a transfer, we're not seeing development, we're not seeing transition from the constructs of apartheid. So he basically termed this as a time bomb, putting a stern warning that if this is not addressed, then you know, the future does not bode well for the democratic project that is the South African democracy.
Very worrying indeed. Now, the issue of racism being criminalized, I mean, it's been met with different opinions, Tumaole. But even those that agree that it should be criminalized are all saying, you know what, legally, this is going to take forever. What is the Human Rights Commission's stance on this?
Well, the Human Rights Commission stance is that it has to start somewhere, and the process has to get going. The Human Rights Commission basically saying that it's inundated with various cases of racism and racially motivated, whether they be overt or subversive attacks on individuals. It goes so far as to employment. It affects people's access to the economy. That's how bad racism and how entrenched it is. And that's another issue that former President Thabo Mbeki spoke to say that, you know, South Africa might be all about the rainbow nation and the project of reconciliation, but to a certain portion of the population, not all previously advantaged people, white people, there's a certain core group of people who behind the scenes carry on with these negative slurs, with the racist attitudes, whether it's economically and socially as well. And sometimes they find themselves expressed. Now that we've got social media,
yes.
we know what happened with the Penny Sparrow saga,
yes,
and the role on that had. So this is the issue that he's raising, saying that people are whispering behind the scenes, and that South Africa really needs to have an open conversation of where we really are.
Tumaole, thank you so much for that update. That is Tumaole Mohlaoli with us here in studio, and he was giving us the latest from the Racism Conference, which is currently taking place here in Midrand.